Good day and welcome to the American Medical Association CPT Smart App webinar. Today's conference is being recorded, and at this time I would like to turn the conference over to Barbara Benstead. Please go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. This is Barbara Benstead from the American Medical Association. I'm the Director of the CPT Technologies here at AMA and wanted to take you through the Smart App, give you a demonstration of it, tell you a little bit of why we've created this new application for code change processes, and then answer any of your questions that you might have. I'm not sure if you've been in it yet or have taken a look, but it's some great new technology that we're anxious to have you take a look at. So let's jump in here. What we're going to look at is some of the benefits and the purpose of the Smart App and why we've gone this digital route. An update on where we are for the development of it. If you have been following for the last few years, you've known we've been in beta and have had different versions of it up. So give you a quick update of that. I want to talk a little bit about the key navigation pieces because people always ask about some of those. Does it save? How do I get around, etc. And then actually go into an application. Now that we're fully live, we can go in. I'll be in our test environment. That's what we use here on the development side. So you can see some of those pieces and then leave some time for questions. So what is the Smart App? For 50 years, the application to change a CPT code has been paper. So as we took a look at the modern way we do things, we wanted to create an interface that allows you to get in and manage all of your applications in one spot. So this is really a repository for you for all of your applications, all of your literature, all of those pieces of the application process that you have and that your other applicants and co-presenters can have. And this is also a great spot for you to keep your panel agenda items. We post those there for you and see the comments from the staff. So this is really a portal for you into the code change application process. Why we've done this? It is this modern and efficient platform. So it's going to allow you to have one spot, like I mentioned before, to complete and process your code change applications. It's also your access point to the CPT code set. I don't know if you've realized, but we've had it closed over the summer now so we can update it with the latest data. When we take a look today at the application, it is the 2020 data. Those books aren't even on the shelf yet. So this is your first window into the code change application, the code changes that become effective on January 1st. What this new process allows us to do is really standardize the applications. When we started CPT 50-some years ago, it was a code change application. And as the code set has evolved, different types of codes are available now, whether they're MAAA, whether they're Path Lab, whether they're the shortened, the RUC parts. If you need to come back and you get a RUC recommendation to come back and get some more information. So this is a spot that we've taken to standardize all of those applications. So we have the same types of questions that are applicable across all of the applications. We wanted to modernize the process. Email and Word are kind of yesterday's technologies. Really doing a cloud-based web application is the wave of the future. This also allows us to be flexible for other types of codes that emerge in the future. As you'll see, the Smart App covers 4 of our types of applications, but there are 2 that the Smart App still does not encompass. You'll see that the PLA applications are still in their own portal because those are on a different cycle and they're a very different set of questions. And you'll see that our Category 2 application is still paper-based because that's a very different code set. But really this gives us a platform that we can grow as the code set has to change. And this also gives us an ability for some analytics on the code changes. We all just got back from Seattle here in the room, and some of you may have been at the CPT editorial board meeting last week in Seattle. But as we go through the process, we're starting to think more in the analytics realm. We always hear about big data, and now we can start getting some statistics about what's happening in the CPT world, how many code change applications come through, in what part of the code set we're changing. So now that we are a fully digital process, we'll be able to get that information. And the Smart App is the driver of that. So I've talked about a few of these. It's going to give you, as an applicant, better control of the application process. You know where your application is, whether it's being staff reviewed, if it's been staff accepted, et cetera. So it's a nice window into the process once you submit the application. We've rearranged some of the questions. If you haven't used the Smart App in the last year, you'll see that we've tried to put everything into chapters. The older paper applications, they'd ask a question and then go to a different type of question. We've put a lot of thought into trying to kind of give chapters of information, we call it, so it's more organized for you as an applicant. Because we now can put the 2020 data or the newest data when it comes available into the Smart App, it really helps, especially for the February meeting when you want to make a code change application, but you don't know if once you get to February if that code's been changed. So now you have that visibility into the most current code set. We give a lot more guidance in the Smart App about what the questions are. And I'll show you this when we get into the application itself, but we did a whole courses, there are 6 together, on what the code change application process is, how to use the technology, what the submission process is. So this gives a lot more visibility for newcomers and for veteran users what the CPT code change application process looks like. There are a couple of key features that I'll show as well. One is the online uploading right in line in the application of your literature artifacts and other artifacts. If you're in the PATH lab, we asked for some different documentation there. That's all right in line with the questions. You don't have to go out to a different website or email box for that. And it gives you, it all consolidates all of your applications into one spot. So those are some of the key benefits of the CPT Smart App. And I put this slide here to talk about what it's not. So this is not just a web form where you type information. We ask you, we remember what codes you're changing or what codes you're adding, and then for each of the questions it says for each new or revised code, we give you those codes back so you don't have to remember what they are. So this is a benefit to you as the applicant to always be served up that information. We give you some insight into, as I said before, what the reviewers want, and we help, especially when you get to the literature area, we give you a widget to tell you what type of, or recommend what type of literature will be needed for your application. It's also not an intra-society collaboration tool. As I'm sure you've read at the beginning of the code change application, we suggest that you work with your societies or other societies before you submit your code change application to make sure that you get a broad consensus for your recommended changes. So while you can add as many preparers or applicants as you want in the application, and they can get in and help revise and review information, we don't redline between applicants. So this is really a submission tool. It is not a collaboration tool. But I will show you some tips and tricks on how to collaborate within your group on that. It is also not the tool that the advisors use to review the applications. This is strictly for applicants and preparers. If any of you are part of a specialty society that often submits applications, this is not where you go to review those submitted applications. So some of the benefits, we've talked a little bit about these already. At the beginning, I'm sure if you've used a paper application, you've thought, wow, I got 5 pages of information here, and I've got to kind of wade through some of that. In the Smart App itself, we give you click-through agreements for some of the things that you signed up before, whether it is the confidentiality, the copyright assignment, the conflict of interest. Those are all click-through agreements now, so that's all in one spot. And another benefit of this is once you are registered and you sign up to use the Smart App, we remember that information and just print it right on the application for you. So you don't have to retype all those pieces. And as you add other applicants preparers, that information is carried through as well. So it's a nice one-stop shop. And as I mentioned, that this is where all your documentation is. And the nice thing about this piece, and it's really quite exciting, is that you can upload your artifacts and your other preparers and applicants can see that information and download it as well. You don't have to email the application and email all the articles. It's right there so they can grab it. And then you can also, once you've submitted and it's been accepted, you have a dashboard or control panel for each application you have where you can see staff comments, see the most updated panel agenda item, etc. So it's just a really nice one-stop shop for all of your code change applications. Some of the big differences, there are some conditional questions in here. If you remember on the paper application, we'd say, if no, skip to question 4, or if yes, answer these other questions. That's built into the logic of the Smart application. So we pose to you the questions that are relevant based on your prior responses. We remember this as you go. We save, and I'm going to show you this, we save all the time for you so you don't have to worry about losing any information in there. And I'll show you the proposed code change questions. It's really a set of tools that we give you to build your ballot. And then I already talked about a little bit about the reference citation questions, how we give you some widgets to help you upload those pieces and give you some interactive questions. So where we are today, the cycle for the February meeting opened back on September 19th. So we're fully live now. We've had 2 cycles of a beta period where applicants had the choice to either use the paper-based applications or use the Smart App. We've taken lots of feedback, and we're constantly making changes. It's a digital application, so we can take feedback, put it into our development cycle, and make updates. So now we are fully live. So all of the applications coming in for either the Category 1-3 long form, the Category 1 short RUC form, the pathology and laboratory application, or the MAAA GSP applications are all required to be on the Smart App. So those will all be digital. The PLA is a separate tool, and then that Category 2 is also a paper-based application. When we take a look at today, we are going to see the 2020 data, which is pretty exciting. So we are always open to feedback. If there's something that's not working, or you say, hey, it'd be better if it did this, we're always welcome for feedback. We take that and we work with our panel chairs. The panel chairs have been intimately involved in the development of this, and they were also intimately involved in all of the training videos we did. They reviewed every piece. They helped us with the examples we've used. So we've had a great partnership with the panel members and especially the panel chairs to go through this and make this the smoothest, best application we can for you. So and you may have been in last year, and I put this slide in to show you that we're constantly making updates. When we envisioned this, we thought, oh, this is where you can keep all of your applications. And then we thought, oh, you might want to make some test ones. So we give you the ability to delete those pieces. Another piece of feedback, some people wanted to have other attachments that weren't part of a question. So we've put in the ability to put in ad hoc attachments for that application right from the control panel. Once you add another preparer or another applicant, they get an email that says, welcome, you've been invited, and we're constantly tweaking that language of that email to make it more intuitive and easier to use. So that's an improvement we've made. We've also, the idea is we know that there are many consultants or staff that work for different specialty societies. So for each application, you can go to your profile and change your organization name if you are associated with a few different applications. So that profile, whatever it is when you start that application, is specific to that application. We've given you the ability to edit your citations. If you create a citation reference and you answered incorrectly or you want to change the sponsoring journal, you can go back in and edit those pieces. We also, in the Word document, when you can print a Word document at any time, we associate any of your uploaded artifacts to what that question is. So you can scroll. So it's not just a list of artifacts at the end and the file names. We now say to which either citation they are associated or the question. So that gives you as an applicant or preparer or as a co-applicant an idea of where those pieces go, and it also helps organize it for the reviewers. We have an email that goes out 3 days before the end of the cycle when it closes. So if you have any unsubmitted applications, it's a reminder, please submit before the deadline. And then if you do withdraw, there's a text box that pops up because part of the CPT process is to let everyone know why you're withdrawing. So that information goes right to the staff. So these are the types of feedback information we get. We take that and then we try to incorporate that into the app to constantly improve it for you. So here are some of the highlights. We're going to jump in. One of the key questions is always the navigation and how do I get to it. So on the screen now, you're going to see the URL for this. This is also available on the AMA corporate site. So if you go to ama-assn.org, there are a couple spots in the top navigation where it says CPT. You can navigate there, navigate to the code change applications, and there's a big button on that page, CPT Smart App, start your application. You can click it there. If you are an advisor or advisor staff and you're in the collaboration, it's on the top navigation there too. When you go to sign in, your AMA credentials will work. So many of you have been part of the CPT process before. Those same usernames and passwords will work in this system. And then the information you've put there will carry through to this. So you just need that one login for AMA. If you're not, if you're new from industry or want to add a new staff member, we give you the quick link to the AMA corporate site right there to create an account. An account is free. You don't need to be an AMA member, and you don't need to be a physician to create an account. So once you get in, you work on your application, and then you just submit, and you're part of the process. So it's pretty easy to access the CPT Smart App. This is a view of what the email looks like if you are invited to be part of the application. You get the link right at the top. You'll see that. And then we give you some information on how to register. And then we also give you this URL that's right at the bottom, or this email address. That goes right to the CPT team. There's a staff of 4 people here at AMA who monitor anything that goes on with the Smart App, and we're here to really make this better for you. So if you have a question about any part of the process, any part of the application technology, please use that email box, and we track those to make sure that they're answered and answered in a timely manner. So that's kind of a key email address to have. So once we log in, and you'll see this in a few minutes, this is what the dashboard looks like. It looks a little bit like AMA. We got our purple logo at the top, etc. It looks, if you've been into the PLA application, it's similar to that as well. We have, I'm going to walk through a little bit of this. We have some general announcements. This is constantly changing. Over here, we'll give you new information. Here's a link about the webinar right now. This is a dynamic content that's saying that, hey, we're open for the February 2020 meeting. And then again, here's that email address if you need to contact us. We tell you what the dates are, the submission window. We also tell you when that meeting is. This is where you go in and click in to start. We have a how does it work. So this is a quick little tutorial on how to use the application. And then we give you a link to all of the training materials. Once you're in the application, the left navigation is really key to using the Smart App. As I mentioned at the beginning, we have chapters of information. If you remember, like I said, at the beginning of the old paper application, there were pages and pages really of submission requirements and general criteria and specific criteria. So we all put this in an easy way for you to get to and review if you need to. We have a chapter of just those legal pages I talked about. Click through those, and then you jump into the different chapters. Once you've answered that question, we give you a green check mark. Say, yep, it's finished, and we tell you what the next questions are. The first time you use the CPT Smart App and go through an application, you need to answer the questions sequentially. This is because, as I mentioned, we have conditional questions here, and we remember what your new and revised codes are. So you need to populate the application first with that information, and then you can go back and click into other questions if you need to answer them. One part of the left navigation that we found people generally just kind of miss, there are 4 key boxes at the top. These are really important because this gives you a place to save right in line. We save every 2 minutes. Every time you go to a new question, it saves automatically. But if you add some text and you want to save right there to make sure, there's a save button here. The attachments shows you which attachments you've uploaded. You can download the application at any time. Even just starting it, you can go in, name it, get to this spot, and hit download. And then you have a blank application with all of the questions if you want to work offline, or you want to take that Word document and email it to other societies or other members within your society and get collaboration that way. Use the Word features for track changes to work on your rationales or your vignettes or things like that. So this is where you download to Word right here. And then if you want to get back to your control panel, you just hit this button. So these are 4 key buttons. We also have what we call the breadcrumb trail at the top. You can click on those to get back to different spots. So these are some key navigation tips when working with the application. So right now I want to jump into the application itself and take you into a live application. I'm going to share, it'll take 1 sec to get in here. Here we go. So I'm actually in our test environment just because we're always updating things. We've got some new features here that should push next month. So before you saw that this piece was green, it's yellow here, so we at AMA know it's test. But here we are. I'm in as a tester, and you can see that I have a whole bunch of applications. And this view is specific to me. Only me, as I call myself CCAT test 10, can see. Other applicants, even if you share that, might have a different looking dashboard of their applications. All of these columns are sortable. I can just click on the column header. I can say, oh, I have 1 reverted application. I have some saved applications. I can see what my last updated ones are.
Sorry to interrupt. We've had a few questions about the dashboard and the applications themselves. So for those who did not see the question, when you log in, you will see the dashboard every time. And if you've been invited to an application that someone else has created, you will also see the dashboard upon logging in, and you can click the application ID that Barb is going to do soon here to open that application. And then also, someone else asked if you can create and test an application before submitting it. You can certainly do that. As you can see here, we have a lot of test applications. So you can draft as many copies as you want to an application, and no one else will see it except for yourself as well as anyone that you've invited. So feel free to play along as much as you'd like.
Thanks, Kyle. So these are all drop-downs, and then we give some more information here. As I mentioned early on, we did a full set of training videos, and you can access those either from the AMA corporate site or from the training from this button. You can download these as PDFs, or you can watch the full training course. And these are, what you would normally see in a digital training experience, the goals of the course, how we're going to walk you through it, and then different videos. We also have snippets of these videos as you go through the application itself. Whenever you see the blue question mark, you can click on those. It opens a little YouTube link, and you can walk through, and we take you through those things. So those little blue question marks are really key to, if you don't know what the question's asking, you can click on those. We tell you both how to use the digital tool to answer the application, but we also give you insight into what the panel reviewers are looking for in that question. From this little drop-down in the upper right, this is where you can change any profile information. As I mentioned earlier, when you go in, if you're working for different societies, etc., you can change the name of your organization and your information on this page. Your name and your email are grayed out because those are coming over from your AMA sign-on piece, and you need to go back to the main AMA to change those pieces so you don't end up having conflicting emails. So those you can't change because it's part of your big AMA login, but for each application you can change your organization and your phone number, etc. So I'm going to jump right in here, and I'm going to create a new application. You'll see from the drop-down that we'll give you access to start any application. If I hit Category 2, it's going to take me to the AMA corporate website where you can download the paper application. And if I click on the PLA one, it will also jump to the PLA tool. So it's really the first 4 that we will use here. So let me go into the Category 1 long form, and I'm going to say this is our webinar application. Just click that and hit Apply Now, and we've jumped into the application. So as we worked through creating this, we really distilled the different types of applicants into 2 roles. One is that applicant who is usually the physician or the industry, the main people who are signing off on it. And the other one are society or staff members who are just preparing the application. Both roles have pretty much all the same rights within the application. Both roles can withdraw, they can submit, they can add other applicants or preparers, etc. The big difference between those 2 roles is that the preparer is not expected to present at the panel meeting. They can, of course, but that's really the big difference. And at any time before you submit, you can change the role from an applicant to a preparer. You can come in as a preparer and then remove yourself before it's submitted as well. The one caveat there is there always has to be one applicant on an application. We just can't have a preparer on there because we're going to expect that applicant then to come to the meeting or help present at the CPT meeting. So I will hit Next, and I jump right in. So again, here are those submission requirements, and I can read through and click Next for each one. And you can see my green check box on the side. I've gone through those. And again, here are those legal pieces that we talked about before. But before I even go any further, again, here's that download button where I can download that, and it will create a Word application for me. So now I have a blank application in Word that I can use to work offline if I want to. So I go through and I agree to each of these. This is my name and my organization. There's a confidentiality piece. I'm going to click through all these quickly.
Barbara, while you're doing that, we have another question.
Okay, Kyle, why don't we hold questions until the end?
Okay.
Okay, great, thanks. And then we've just updated our conflict of interest policy. So I'm in my test environment, so I can see this new one here. I'll click through and say, no, I have no conflicts. And my attestations. The attestations used to all be at the end of the application, if you remember doing the old ones. We've moved them around a little bit so they're a little more logically placed in the application. So now I'm in the first question. So do I need FDA approval? I'm going to say, if I say yes, I'm asked if it's a drug, a device, or a vaccine. And if I choose vaccine, it gives me even more information about what's required for a vaccine change application. But the nice thing is that if it's none of those, I hit no, and I don't have to worry about any of those pieces. I hit next. Do I need FDA approvals? If I say no, again, I'm asked some information. If I say yep, I've got them all, I just move right along. I'm going to say I don't need the HUD utilization. So again, here is the inline updating. If I did need my FDA approval, I would upload it right here. I'm going to say next. Here is where I could type, whatever my rationale is. I'm also able to cut and paste this from a Word document or other places, which is, again, if you want to work offline and collaborate with the society, you can cut and paste that information right into this text box. We know that the reviewers want a short and concise, whether it's a rationale or a vignette, but we don't limit you here. Our first test version of this, the panel member said, oh, we want 75 words, and everyone said, oh, I can't justify this in 75 words. So we've taken that requirement off, although for the vignettes, one of the features that the panel has asked us for is to remind people that they do want that to be kept to the most concise vignette as possible. So I'll put something in here. And then I just hit next. And you'll see on these text boxes that we give you the ability to do bulleted lists, to use, all the general word features are right here for you. So this is really the exciting part, one of the two really exciting parts of the application, in my opinion. This is what I like to say are the tools that you can use to build your ballot. So this is how you can come in, and you'll see now that this looks like the table of contents to the CPT professional book. You have all the different chapters, the guidelines at the beginning of those green guidelines, and then you can click into these, and you're going to see, oh, here are all the subsections that are in that section. And you can keep clicking into these to drill down into the application. You'll see all these. So this is one way to access the CPT information. Another way, which is really exciting, is to use the search bar. In this search bar, you can put in text or codes. I'm going to enter a code here. I'm going to think about it, and so it's going to pull back. And so some key pieces here, I can say I can sort my results by either the relevance order, like how does it match what I put in, or where does that fall within the book. So the first spot that code 71076 shows up in the code book is in this guideline. We default to relevance order because if you search for a 5-digit code, that's the first thing you want to come back. So I say, there are 2 results. So there are only 2 spots in the CPT code set where that shows up, either as this code or in this guideline. So I think, okay, I want to edit 71076, and I just click on that. So once I go in, it shows me all the results, or gives me that result back. Here it is, and it shows me the other codes that are around it. I see in this area that this is the section I'm in, and it looks just like the CPT professional book with my subheaders in the different colors. And then if I wanted to, I could I can edit that, or I can go down and I can click on my code itself to edit it. So if I click in here, this is my edit tool. I click on the pencil and I can go in and edit that information. So like I said before, you see a lot of the standard word features. We've also added the different symbols that you're used to seeing in the CPT code set, whether you're resequencing, you're making it telemedicine, or FDA approval. Those are all right here for you. And then I'm just going to start typing And you can see that just by typing, it puts it into the CPT convention of underline, which is really nice. And then there is an explicit save that we want you to do here, so we make sure that we capture exactly what you wanted. So once I click save, you'll see that we give you that little blue triangle that tells the CPT reviewers that that is a revised code. So I've added that to my ballot. I think that I also want to change some of the information in that guideline that's right before that. So I'm going to go back to the search and search for a guideline that is right near there. So I'm going to search for code 076 and see what I get back. Oh, here's that guideline that precedes that right in the book. So if I click on that, I see this guideline information. You can see the next code is the one I just edited, but I want to add some new information here. So I just click on my pencil again. I can edit that and start editing information. Edit that and hit save. So you think, all right, I wonder what my ballot looks like right now. This My Proposed Code Changes is really a print preview. So if I click on that, I can go in and say, oh, this is what my ballot's going to look like. I see my headers. I see what I've changed in my guideline here. You can see my application just saved. And then I can see this change that I've made to this application. Think, all right, so I've changed this code, but I also want to say add another code below it. So I am going to go in and I actually want to search for a new code. So let me search for and here's another code. I click into that, and you can see I've got a standalone code and another standalone code, 3 standalone codes, and then my parenthetical. So what I'd like to do now is add another code underneath 21110. So to do that, I click my pencil, and I actually want to make it a child code. So it's going to be a parent-child relationship. I'm going to say I'm going to add a new child after. It gives you some of the CPT instructions for how to do that and how to structure that temporary code. So I'm going to use 21x12 to give it a spot where it needs to be in the code set. I click Add. You can see I get the new symbol, so this is a brand new code, and I put in my descriptor here and hit Save. So now I have added this new code. But one of the things that I want the reviewers to understand is exactly where I want to put this. And so one of the CPT conventions that we have made digital that people don't think about a lot and they miss a little bit when they get into the application is what we're calling our for placement only. These little flags that you see before each code marks it as for placement only. And what this does is this makes it italic and gray right away. So that signals to the reviewers that you haven't changed that code, but you've put it into your ballot just to give them reference where this change might be. So if I click this, you can see that it's changed to italic and gray. I can't edit that anymore, so I need to make sure that I go in and add the code below, use that feature, and then make it that for placement only. If I also want to do, I can add a parenthetical to this. So I want to add a parenthetical, and it comes up. We tell you to add a parenthetical here. So I'm just going to say, do not report with 21230. It's got my parentheticals on the side, and hit Save. And there we have it. So now I've got a new child code and the parenthetical that goes with it. If I'm curious about what that looks like, I go up to my proposed code changes, and you can see that I have my header, this header that for this guideline and this code, but 21110 and 21x12, which I'm suggesting is added, are in a different subheader. So you can see that I have that header there as well. So this is what the panel reviewers will see as your ballot. When I go through now into my application, I'm going to say this is all I want to do. I'm going to hit next and go into the rest of the codes. And this is where you can see if on this side, I can close this chapter, you can see all the questions that are coming up next. For this question, it's for each new or revised code. So I've said I've revised this code. I need to answer these questions. And this is a lookup. So if I start typing, you can see the drop down and grab any of those. Or this is also a free text. I can hit NA if it's not applicable. So for this, I might put in 21110 and say, new technology. Did I spell right? What a lot of people have found as they've worked through this, that if they have a family of codes and they would have the same justification for each, you can just put that same code here in the next one and then do same as above. This is kind of a pro tip here. And then in the application, when you print it, the reviewers will see, oh, that's the same information as I put in that same justification. If it's the same, you don't have to cut and paste it for each. So that's one of the quick ways to work through those. At this point, if I think, oh, I want to go, work on a different application, I can hit Save for Later, and it's going to take me out to my dashboard, or excuse me, my control panel for that particular application. So you can see here, these are the tools that I need to manage this particular application. I can see me as the applicant. I haven't submitted, so there are no CPT comments yet, and this is where the attachments would be. If I want to go back in and edit the application, I can just click View and Edit Application and go to that last spot that I left off at. And that's kind of a key piece. One of the updates we're making right now, if you go to our live site, it just says Edit, and people don't realize that this is how you jump back in. So that's a key spot for jumping back in. Again, if I want, I can download the application again and see that information with the responses I just put in. If I want to make another application that's similar, I can clone this. If I hit clone, it'll make a clone of that application, and then I go right into it. And you can use this pencil to rename it. That's the renaming feature. I have gone through and completed this application because, as I said at the beginning, you need to answer these in sequence. I want to jump back in to this reverted application that I've done. It's the same one I was working on. And you can see that I reverted this in our test environment, and this is what one of the staff comments would look like. So you can see that those are all in line. If I go to my Attachments tab, I can see all of those attachments. If I were an added applicant to prepare, I could download all of these pieces, or I can add a new one here. So I want to jump in and view this application because I want to show you what this handy tool for the reference citations. So I've gone through and I've added a few citations here. In the older paper application, you remember there was a chart that a lot of people actually didn't use, but it's really quite helpful to tell you what type of literature you need. And you can change these radio buttons and see the information changing here. So this is suggesting to me at this point that I need 5 pieces of literature that are a minimum level of evidence of this. So these numbers change based on what you add there. There aren't rules in the citation reference that hold you to these, but this is a suggestion for you, and then it also gives the reviewers an idea of what to look for. If I look at these pieces, a nice thing about this is I have to associate every citation with one of the codes that I'm adding or revising. So I can choose one or both, and then they're listed here as well. Say I want to revise this citation, I simply click on it. Oh, actually, no, I don't want to do that. If I click on these to go back into one.
You can go back into that. It's just because you started one. It's just going to cancel your changes.
So I jump in and I can edit any of this information. Say I want to upload a new file, I just hit choose files and it goes through any of that. And then I can change any of this information in here as well. When you do go through it the first time, one key piece is that if I hit next here, the one question that's not required are the conflicting citations. For this one, you don't need to add anything, and you can just hit next to get to the end of the application. So once I'm here, I can add comments, and then if I haven't submitted, it would say verify application. If the staff does revert this to an applicant, they need to click next through the questions after they've been through and then re-verify the application. And once that happens, they can hit submit. I want to take a look now at the Word application that's created. So this looks a little more modern and updated than you're used to seeing for the code change applications. We give you all this information. This is me as as a submitter.
Still loading.
Oh, it is? Okay. We're waiting for this Word document to show up. Oh, you know why? You can't see that because I'm not sharing that. So let me just go back into the application. Let me share my Word so you can see that. One moment here. Here we go. So this is what the Word application looks like. You can see here's my information that pulled right over. And then these are hyperlinks, so you can jump around in the application. And if I scroll down here, you'll see here is what is considered the ballot, my new information, all these pieces. So it's a really nice, concise look at this. And here's one where I entered both of these codes. This is new technology, and it's the same rationale as above. And then if I scroll down to my citations, lots of information here. Here's my, we give you all the questions back, so if you do want to collaborate offline, you can do that. And then we put all the legalese at the end. So it's a really great way to be able to collaborate. So those are some of the key parts about the CPT Smart App. I want to go back now and just have it on. I'm going to start taking some questions, but I do want to put up how to access, again, the different courses we've made. It can be either through the little blue question marks, or this is what the training module looks like. These are the titles of the courses, so if you just want to go in and I wonder what's in the data collection, you can just jump to course 4 and those pieces. And then this is kind of key. This is how you get a hold of us here at the AMA if you have questions. We talked about the email box. We do have an 800 number that you can call that's staffed during the day, and we have some off hours as well. We know that many of you do work on Saturday mornings or in the evening, so get a hold of us that way. And then you can always go online to visit any of those training videos. Those are always available. So those are the key parts about the CPT Smart App, and I'm sure some of you have questions. Kyle, do you have any questions that you'd like to let us know about?
We do have one question, whether the question marks for the training videos display on each question or not.
They are on most of the questions, especially in the category 1-3 long form. For the MAAA and the PATH Lab, because those are such different questions, we're still working through those. And there was a tab that came up at the panel meeting in Seattle last week to combine the MAAA and PATH Lab. So we're waiting to determine if that's going to happen before we go through making those videos. But the majority of questions in the Smart App do have them. Other questions? And in fact, if we don't have any other questions, we can go and take a look at some of those, what those look like. So here we are back in the application. Let me go into the data collection. And as I said, there's some really great insight into here of what what those little questions are. Let me look at it again. So I'm going to click on this, and we go through the major code differences, and the little video will play. All right, so that's most of the CPT Smart App. I do have two of my colleagues in the room, both Kyle and Sean, work on this with me. Kyle or Sean, is there any other tips and tricks you'd like to tell our users about the CPT Smart App?
Again, I already touched on it earlier, but one of the most positive feedbacks I got at the panel meeting when I spoke with other individuals is that you can draft as many applications as you like. No one else is going to see those applications except for you. So please feel free to play around with the Smart App and play around with the functionality, searching for those codes, editing them, creating your ballots to become more familiar with the process. And again, no one will see those changes except for you. And yeah, that was probably one of the biggest feedback items from the meeting.
Great. So again, here is the best way to get a hold of us here at the AMA if you have any questions about the Smart App. Right now, the application cycle is open until November 6th, and those will be applications for the February 2020 meeting.
We do have another question. Do we have access to this video, the training, so we can download it and watch it again?
You bet. We are going to publish this webinar on the AMA corporate site, and we'll work to try and put it up on the Smart App itself if people want to access it there. We're also going to do another webinar later in October, and that one's going to be more interactive. So if you start working on your application now, you can, gather your questions and come in and have those answered live here, or if you just want to sit in on that and see what some of the other people's questions are. We really want to make this as open and transparent as possible for you as the applicant. So if you ever feel stuck on any part, we know it's new technology, and it seems like the more powerful things are, the more complicated the first time they can be. So we're really here to support you as applicants in the CPT process. So if we have no other questions, that will be it for the CPT Smart App Webinar 1 today. Thank you for joining, and we look forward to hearing from you, both positive and any other questions you have. So thank you very much.